Good evening. Let us begin quietly, simply. Words are auxiliaries. Words sometimes are an interference. If you have learned any truth with me, you have learned that a certain warmth in the heart, a rise of feeling, a tremor in the spine can be as much weather as revelation. Do you see? There is nothing wrong with inspiration. It can be a gentle breeze on the surface of the lake. But realize this: breezes pass. What abides, what heals, what feeds 5,000 without fanfare is not wind, but the depth of the water. Therefore, from the beginning, let us accept the only honest test of God consciousness by your life experience, by the fruitage, not by your visions, not by your vocabulary, not by a sudden light on the brow. By their fruits ye shall know them, said the Master. The tree is known by its fruit, not by the songs the leaves sing to themselves in springtime. If over months and years discord lessens in power and duration, if supply is found in sufficiency without anxious grasping, if your presence leaves others steadier, quieter, more whole, then you need no one to tell you what you have. Your Father, who seeth in secret, rewardeth openly. I know the quiet fear that sits in the pews of the heart. What if I am only on an emotional jag? What if I have learned to speak spiritual words and to thrill at my own recital? I will help you, not by congratulating your moods, and not by condemning them, but by giving you signs you can verify in the daylight and in the night watches. This is a way of simplicity. We will not ask you to believe what cannot be borne out in the small places where life is actually lived: the kitchen, the office, the doctor's waiting room. The moment you receive a letter that seems to darken the doorway, inspiration visits, realization abides. Inspiration is like sudden sunlight between clouds. Realization is the sun itself, which does not argue with weather. When the glow passes, what remains? That is the question that begins an honest path. If, after the music fades, your relationships are more tender, your judgments quieter, your capacity to forgive quicker, your body less obedient to fear, then the glow was not a trick of weather. It was the uncovering of what is. Be still and know that I am God. Notice the order. Be still first, then know. Not feel first, then hope. I would not have you mistake sentences for substance. I would not have you believe that many words or clever words will accomplish what presence alone performs. My conversation is usually limited to, I will help you. When a call comes at an hour that human wisdom calls inconvenient, I do not stand up and shout truth to the air. I become very still. I give no thought to the person or the condition. I do not take sides with appearances, nor do I lobby heaven with phrases. I wait until presence announces itself, and then I go back to sleep, or I call back and say, I will help you. The sign is not that we spoke eloquently. The sign is that harmony shows up and does not require applause. Do you follow that? You are not to be harsh with yourselves. This is not a scolding path. It is a sober path. But it does not flatter. If the same trouble keeps its throne month after month with the same drama, if your peace depends on the temperature of the church room or the sweetness of the hymn, be honest enough to say, I have been made happy, but I have not yet realized. There is no shame in that sentence. It is the doorway to God. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for poverty of pretense makes room for wealth of presence. From this hour, carry one measure in your heart, by your life experience, by the fruitage. Let that be your sermon, not your intentions. The world is not asking for your ecstasies, it is longing for your quietness that heals. As we go on, I will place before you clear signs you can look for, not to judge yourselves or others, but to discern whether root is taking hold beneath the soil of feeling, and I will help you. Stand still and let the measure be what the Master made it to be, fruit and only fruit. Do you see? Now I will give you two words that, if you will let them, will carry you the whole way without strain, without argument, and without drama. The infinite way is built around a few words. The first of these words is as. The second is. Do you see? These are not slogans. They are not decorations for a wall. They are the architecture of realization. When you are weary of reaching, when you are tired of begging the sky to open, return to these two words and stand still. As God is manifest as individual being, God the invisible appears as Son the visible. There is not a God up there and a you down here trying to telephone him with your best vocabulary. I and the Father are one. He that hath seen me hath seen the Father. The Master was not offering poetry. He was giving you a fact of being. God appearing as you does not make you God in the sense of a big, important person. It dissolves the sense of a person apart from God. It relieves you of the burden of a separate self trying to become spiritual. This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Hear that within yourself, not as flattery, but as identity. When you accept as, you stop trying to add God to you. You stop laboring to invite presence to a place. Presence already fills your very being. You meet your neighbor and you do not say in your thought, oh, a difficult human, or oh, a wonderfully spiritual human. You look back of the eye, past the mask, and you behold God appearing as this one. In that beholding, criticism subsides, fear begins to drain, and help can flow without your words getting in the way. Do you follow that? Now, is the second pillar. You are never trying to make truth happen. You are never trying to persuade life to be life. You are never trying to make 2 times 2 be 4. You are realizing it is 4, harmony is, life is, love is, abundance is, omnipresence is. I am that I am. In him we live and move and have our being. All real spiritual work rests in is, not in effort, but in recognition, not in manufacture, but in witness. When the mind wants to fix, you are already late. When the mind wants to struggle, you have forgotten is. I am not against words. Words are auxiliaries. But listen, inspiration often tries to reach God. It tries to whistle loud enough to call a distant deity into the room. That is why it is so exhausting. God consciousness rests. It abides in, as, and in is. And then, without proclamation, life begins to show the evidence. Problems do not bow to your eloquence. They dissolve before realized isness. Bodies do not mend because you say many sentences. They find their rightful function when the pressure of 2 powers is lifted and is allowed to announce itself. I remember a mother who telephoned in the night. The child was fevered and the house was crowded with fear. My conversation was limited to, I will help you. I gave no thought to the person or the condition. I did not undertake to move God. I became still until the inner word said what it always says when we are quiet. I am. I recognized God as the life of that child, the one. Life appearing as individual being as, and I rested in the fact that life is, wholeness is, I-S. Nothing more. In a short time, the thing was finished. Not because a human mind conquered heat, but because it was realized and as was honored by your life experience, by the fruitage. Do you see? Carry this into the next hour. When fear breathes on your cheek, do not reach outward. Return within and know. God as me is on this field. Truth is present. You need not announce it to the room. You need not convince the air. Stand still. Let the inner ear open. If your mind insists on a sentence, make it a small one and let it go. The work is not your thinking, the work is your recognizing. Drop the impulse to fix. Yield to the fact that being is being, whether or not the weather agrees. If you will live in, as, and is God appearing as you, and truth already is, you will discover a new simplicity. Effort lessens, drama cools, words decrease, and effectiveness increases. You will not be carried away by moods because you are anchored in fact. From this foundation, the signs we will speak of become natural, not spectacular, inevitable, not occasional. The tree does not strain to bear fruit, it abides in what it is. Abide in as, rest in is, and let the Father who seeth in secret reward openly. Do you follow that? Now let us face, without drama and without self-accusation, the great deception that masquerades as zeal, personalizing error and calling it spiritual work. Error, rightly seen, is not a person and not a condition and not a law. It is hypnotism, the universal belief in two powers, projecting pictures on the screen of sense, begging you to step up and wrestle with shadows. When you fight the shadow on the wall, the drama increases, but the substance was never there. Judge not according to the appearance, but judge righteous judgment. Do you see? As long as a face is attached to the trouble, as long as the word my is fastened to the pain, my tumor, my lack, my enemy, you have already consented to the hypnosis. You have agreed to two powers and to a self apart from God. In that instant, you begin to fight people, bodies, and circumstances, and you may decorate the fight with verses and affirmations and noble intentions, but it remains a fight. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, said the apostle. He did not say we wrestle more cleverly against flesh and blood. He said not. When the master stood before accusation, he did not arm himself with arguments against persons. Put up thy sword, he said. Why? Because the sword is for shadows, and shadows are multiplied by swinging. How does the delusion form? Very simply, a suggestion knocks. You have been treated unfairly. The body is failing. The economy is cruel. At once, the mind seeks a culprit, a cause, a place to aim its spiritual artillery. It fastens a suggestion to a face or a form and then declares, I will demonstrate truth at this. In that hour, prayer becomes combat and compassion devolves into pity, which is fear with polite clothing. The belief in two powers has been installed at the center of the temple, and the incense offered is called devotion. This is the great deception. Relief begins at the door, not in the arena. Depersonalize immediately. Do not wait for courage. Do not wait for hours of recitation. At the first awareness of discord, say within yourself quietly, without performing for the air, this is only a claim, an appearance, hypnotism, the arm of flesh, no person, no law, no cause. Drop the face, drop the form, drop the calendar and the medical term and the ledger line. Give not a thought to the person or the condition. Rest again in as and in is. God appearing as individual being, this one included. Truth is here now. In that moment, the authority of the suggestion begins to leak away like air from a punctured bladder. Fear cannot cling to a nonentity. I recall a man involved in a lawsuit that had traveled through months of bitterness. He came with a briefcase heavy with documents and a heart heavier still. He wanted strategy. I would not give him an improved sword. My conversation was limited to, I will help you. In the silence, I refused the personhood of both sides. I beheld God as the only life, law, activity, substance of all being. I recognized the suit as a moving picture thrown by belief in two powers, gain and loss, pretending to be God's. I did not try to fix outcomes. I stood in his. Within days, the matter deflated not by triumph of one ego, but by the absence of fuel for the quarrel. Agreement surfaced that had not been visible under the heat. Why? The moment error was impersonalized, its authority began to collapse. By your life experience, by the fruitage, do you follow that? You may say, but the pain feels in my body. I know. A rope in twilight feels like a snake to the fingers as well as to the eyes. The correction is not to argue with the senses, but to see what is there. Resist not evil does not bid you submit to snakes. It bids you cease wrestling with ropes. Who did sin, this man or his parents? Neither, said the Master, but that the works of God should be made manifest. He removed the blame, the person, and the history, and in that light, sight was restored. When blame is lifted, being reveals itself as what it always was. Practice this in the small minutes. A harsh email arrives. Before you reply, depersonalize. This is only suggestion, the arm of flesh claiming reality it does not possess. Then look back of the eye and behold God appearing as this sender and as you. Rest in is, listen. You will find the sharpness dulling without your cleverness, and your reply, if any, will carry authority without force. This is not passivity. This is righteousness, right seeing. And the proof? The drama shortens, the sting fades. Solutions that bless both sides present themselves without fanfare. Let this be your first relief method. Depersonalize at once. Call it claim, appearance, mesmerism. Deny it person, law, and substance. Then, without strain, behold as and abide in is. The wind will still blow through the treetops of feeling, but the trunk will not sway. And you will find, not by argument but by fruitage, that what seemed hostile had no life but the consent you once gave it. Withdraw that consent and watch the picture lose its color. Do you see? Here is the first sign you can look for without self-deception and without boasting. Problems begin to yield quickly and more often without drama. Not that no wind ever arises, not that the phone never rings at midnight, but that the thing which once ruled the day now loses its throne within minutes or hours, and your peace, which once took days to find, returns before the coffee cools. Do you see? The weather does not certify God consciousness. The shortening of the storm does. He arose and rebuked the wind and said unto the sea, Peace, be still. And there was a great calm. The Master did not move to another ocean. He revealed the is that was already present, and the interval between fear and calm collapsed. This is how you may measure. Do you see the interval shrinking between the appearance of trouble and the return to harmony? Not someday, but this month against last month. This week against last week. Inspiration produces a high and then leaves you where you were, with the same patterns returning at the same intensity. Realization reduces the half-life of discord. The picture may still flash on the screen of sense, but it cannot hold your attention. It cannot demand a speech. It cannot recruit you to two powers. You remember as and is, and the picture fades for lack of belief. I had a student whose kitchen pipe burst just before guests were due. Formerly, this would have meant tears, calls to 3 friends, and a heroic story retold for weeks. This time, the heart raced. Let us not pretend it did not, but within 2 breaths she remembered. This is only an appearance, the arm of flesh, no law, no person, no cause. God appearing as individual being is here. Harmony is. She shut the valve, called the plumber without panic, laid towels, and kept inner silence. The bill was paid without strain. The meal was served with laughter, and there was no saga to rehearse. What changed? Not the pipe, the interval, the dominance, the drama. By your life experience, by the fruitage, why are ye fearful, O ye of little faith? was not a scolding of tired men, it was a diagnosis of timing. The fear had been allowed to occupy the interval where is could have announced itself. As you live in as and is, you will discover that fear still knocks, but the hand on the latch is quicker to withdraw. You stop composing speeches. You forget to report your emergency to 5 people. Your prayer compresses to a word, Father, or to silence, and presence does the work. Be still and know that I am God. Be still first, know second. Then act as you are led, often with very practical steps, but without the theater. Set a gentle test for yourself. When disturbance appears, note 3 intervals: from shock to remembrance of as, from remembrance to inner peace, from inner peace to outward adjustment. Watch them shorten, not by willpower, but because mesmerism is losing credibility. You are not winning battles, you are withdrawing consent. It came to pass is the Bible's refrain for appearances. Let it pass. Refuse it, a residence permit in your thought. If it lingers, do not hate yourself. Return again to as and is. Each return trims the time. Each refusal reduces the noise. Expect this fruit, but do not advertise it. Others will notice that your presence does not add wind to their waves. They will say, when you come in, things seem to settle. You will know the reason and need not explain it. The sign is not that you never face a storm. The sign is that the sea has learned your master's word. Discord loses duration and dominance. Do you follow that? In that quiet, measurable way, realization is proving itself not with symbols, but with calm. Here is the second sign, and it is as simple as it is, searching. You stop needing words because presence does the work. Your outer chatter quiets. Your impulse to compose speeches fades. You discover that when help is truly at hand, vocabulary becomes an accessory you rarely reach for. When thou prayest, said the Master, enter into thy closet, and thy Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly. Do you see? The rewarding openly is the fruitage. The closet is the silence where words are not kings. As realization ripens, the tongue withdraws and the ear within opens. You are less eager to pronounce truth at appearances and more willing to let truth announce itself as presence. You have known times when your finest declarations did not move the needle. Now you begin to know times when you say almost nothing, and mountains relocate quietly. Why? Because as and is are being honored. God appearing as individual being, as needs no trumpet from the personality. Truth is, I-S needs no push from mental effort. Take no thought. It was not an exhortation to laziness. It was instruction to stop substituting mental noise for divine activity. I will help you, those 4 words, or their spirit often suffice. Be warned against the counterfeit. Quoting truth at people as if you are hurling stones proves that you are still personalizing the condition. You hear of an accident and run to say, there are no accidents in divine mind. To a suffering heart, that is cruelty. It is an argument with their feeling, and it exposes your fear. The Master, facing sorrow, wept. He did not throw verses at the mourners. He let love recognize itself. Then, in the fullness of that recognition, Lazarus, come forth. The authority was not in the sentence. The authority was in the realized presence that uttered it. The Spirit itself maketh intercession. Do you follow that? The activity of God is the healer, not your recitation. As words decrease, effectiveness increases, not because silence is a trick, but because silence makes room for the word. So shall my word be. It shall not return unto me void. That is not a promise about many sayings. It is a revelation about the word that is God expressing. When you are still, that word finds utterance in ways unplanned, sometimes as a single phrase, sometimes as an act, sometimes as a silence that rearranges a room. How do you practice this, especially when the cry is urgent? Reduce your outer speech to the spirit of "I will help you," and let consciousness, not rhetoric, lead. Give not a thought to the person or to the condition. At once depersonalize. This is only an appearance, the arm of flesh. No person, no law, no cause. Turn within. Acknowledge as this one is the Father's beloved, God appearing as individual being. Rest in is, life is, harmony is, love is, here, now. Wait, listening. If a word is given, speak it quietly. If an action is given, take it simply. If nothing is given, remain and let presence do its own witnessing. I recall a hospital room where the machines spoke loudly and relatives spoke louder. There was nothing I could say to teach them theology in that hour, and it would have been unkind even to try. I moved to the window and closed my eyes. I let the noise go by as if it were wind. I rested in as and is, without assigning outcome, without pleading. The atmosphere shifted. Voices softened. Decisions that had been stalled became clear and kind. The patient's breath evened out, and a nurse, unprompted, adjusted a setting that relieved distress. No speech had caused it. Presence did the work by your life experience, by the fruitage. Let your communication be yea, yea, nay, nay. That is, let your speech be clean and few. When a call for help comes, be faithful to brevity. I will help you. Then enter the closet. Descend from letter to spirit. If asked to pray out loud, keep it to a sentence that points to is, not to effort. Father, thou art here, then be still. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength and the proof, not that others applaud your eloquence, but that harmony shows itself without your name on it. As you live this way, you will notice another sweetness. You resent less and you convince less. You no longer need to persuade life. You bear witness. You stop needing words because you know who is the Word. And the fruitage will tell you you are not fooling yourselves. Fewer speeches, surer peace, more healings, less theater. Do you see? Here is the third sign. And it is an inward turn so simple that the busy mind will try to complicate it. You pivot from declaring at life to listening for life. At the outset of the path, you must work with the letter consciously know truth. Prime the pump. I and the Father are one. All that the Father hath is mine. God is manifest as individual being. You state, you recall, you bring your thought home from its wanderings. This is not wasted labor, it is foundation. But as you persist, something changes. The sentences begin to soften into silence, and into that silence there comes an impartation that is not of your making. Speak, Lord, for thy servant heareth. Do you see? The emphasis has moved from your speaking to your hearing. What is this impartation? Not a thrill, not a surge of pressure behind the eyes, not a fresh batch of reasons to be convinced. It is a settled knowing that has no argument in it. It comes without strain and leaves no aftertaste of fatigue. You do not say, now I am sure I have declared it well. You find instead that assurance has appeared without your permission, and along with it, clarity about the next small step, often very ordinary, sometimes nothing at all. My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. No trumpet, no drum, a phrase, a pause, a glance that becomes guidance. In this, God consciousness matures, because inner listening has replaced mental speech-making. Do not imagine that the letter is an enemy. The letter is a faithful servant. When the mind is scattered, use the letter to gather it. As and is. Then put the servant aside and let the host be host. I live, yet not I, Christ, liveth my life. This is the transfer of government. You stop trying to convince yourself that God is present. You catch yourself resting because presence has made itself known. You were not the caller, you were the receiver. The Lord is in his holy temple. Let all the earth keep silence before him. The earth here is your mental clatter, the arguments for and against, the rehearsed lines, the self-addressed sermons. Let them keep silence. In that hush, the impartation arrived. A businessman came to me highly skilled in spiritual recitation. He could out-declare a thunderstorm. His affairs, however, were a patchwork of strain. I said little more than, I will help you. We sat in the quiet. I asked him to say inwardly once, Father, and then to stop. The mind bucked. He wanted his favorite verses, but he obeyed. After minutes that felt like hours to his habit, a simple sense came. Call your partner and apologize. No treaty, no leverage, no grand plan. He obeyed. The negotiation that followed was gentle and swift. A contract in stalemate for months was signed without an extra clause. What accomplished that? Not a better speech, but a better ear. Faith came by hearing. Here is your checkpoint, and it is kind. You will notice that your mind is less busy, less eager to argue with itself or with God. You will find pauses of stillness seated throughout your day, on the stair, at the sink, in the car, at a red light where you are not composing, you are listening. Guidance comes unforced and bears its own authority. You do not have to prop it up with excitement. You forget to perform. You forget to persuade. You remember to be still. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. Practice it simply. Begin your day with one conscious recognition, God appearing as me, and truth is, and then close the book. Sit 3 minutes in, unclenched listening. When a need arises, give the letter a single, honest service. Father, thou art here. And then be silent until the inner yes or no comes, or until nothing comes and you proceed with ordinary duty, free of strain. Measure the fruitage. Is the inner noise less? Are decisions arriving with less debate? Are your actions smaller, cleaner, and more effective? If so, you are pivoting. The government is shifting from your sentences to the word, and the word never returns void. Do you follow that? Here is the fourth sign, and it will save you much sorrow if you will let it. Compassion without pity, you help without absorbing the claim. Pity is the personalization of error. It agrees that a person is the seat and substance of the distress, and then it shares the fear. Compassion is the recognition of Christ where pity sees a victim. Compassion looks back of the eye and beholds God appearing as individual being, as, and then refuses the picture of two powers that demands your tears as tribute. When Jesus beheld the multitudes, he was moved with compassion. He was not moved with panic. Compassion is the movement of God as awareness, not the contagion of fear. Do you see? Let us be exact. Give not a thought to the person or to the condition is never coldness. It is spiritual accuracy that frees. To fixate on a person is to consent to mesmerism, the arm of flesh, the suggestion that life can be divided into the helped and the helpless, the strong and the weak. The moment you accept that split, your help becomes sympathetic agitation. You have taken into yourself the same suggestion that is playing on their screen. Then you go home exhausted, heavy, and oddly righteous because you felt with them. That is not ministry. That is an emotional jag. Perfect love casteth out fear, not by wrestling with it, but by declining to house it. True compassion beholds, this is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased, and lets that recognition reorganize the atmosphere. I remember a friend whose brother collapsed into addiction. The family called nightly, each voice braided with dread. They wanted formulas, speeches, a script for confrontation. My conversation was limited to, I will help you. Give not a thought to the person or the condition. In the quiet, I refuse the label addict. I refuse the history. I refuse the calendar of relapses. I recognized God as the life, law, and substance of that one being as, and I rested in. Integrity is, sanity is, freedom is here. The next day, without fanfare, the brother accepted help he had mocked for years. The counselor they could never reach returned their call first. Was it my plan? No, presence did the work. By your life experience, by the fruitage. Do you follow that? But are we not to weep with them that weep? Yes, but weep as the Christ, not as the echo of fear. The Master stood at a tomb and wept, and then he called life forth. His tears were not consent to a power called death. They were love's nearness to the hearts before him. He did not absorb the claim. He unveiled its nothingness. Who did sin? This man or his parents? Neither remove the blame, remove the person, and the work of God is manifest. That is compassion. Pity says, poor you, and sinks. Compassion says, beloved of the Father, and lifts often with very practical hands, but without panic. How does this appear in your day? You enter a room where grief is raw. You do not begin to preach. You do not throw verses like stones. You sit where they are quietly, and your inner stance is simple. This is only a claim, an appearance, hypnotism, without person, law, or cause. Father, thou art here. God appearing as these beloved ones. Life is, peace is. In minutes, breath slows. Someone who has not slept eats half a sandwich. A necessary call is made. You may drive them, make tea, hold a hand. Your actions are ordinary, but the temperature of fear drops, and no heaviness clings to you when you leave. That is the mark. You helped, and you are not drained, because you did not accept the second power to carry. There is a way to bear one another's burdens without making them yours. Bear ye one another's burdens, and so fulfill the law of Christ, not by hoarding their fear, but by embodying the law of as and is in their presence. You bear by beholding. You lift by refusing the picture. You can wash feet without bowing to dust. You can sign a check without agreeing to lack. You can listen to a long story without consenting to its premise. In that posture, compassion sees what God is being here, and then it does what is needed, no more, no less. Test this sign gently. After you have sat with suffering, are you emptied of energy or emptied of fear? Are you compelled to retell the drama, or are you quietly grateful even when the story is not yet complete? Do those you help find themselves steadier, not because you impressed them, but because something unspoken steadied the room? Then compassion, not pity, is operating. True compassion rests in Christ recognition, and from that rest it acts. And the proof is not in the warmth of your sentiment, but in the fruitage. Calmer hearts, kinder decisions, shortened storms, and helpers who go home light. Do you see? Here is the fifth sign, and it will surprise you with its gentleness and its firmness. You begin to unsee human good and human evil, and you find the same God there. Do you see? Not only do you refuse the authority of what the world calls bad, you cease to worship what the world calls good. Both are appearances on the same screen. To be ruled by either is to remain at the surface where the waves praise and the waves condemn. Judge not according to the appearance, but judge righteous judgment. Righteous judgment is the vision that looks back of the eye, beyond the report, into the source, God appearing as individual being, as, and resting in what already is, I as. This is a precise discipline. The garden parable names the trap, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, not of evil only, but of good and evil. To eat of that tree is to consent to two powers, to be comforted by a pleasant picture and terrified by an unpleasant one. The master would not have it. When called good master, he answered, Why callest thou me good? None is good save one, that is God. Do you follow that? He rejected personal credit even for the most radiant appearance because he saw the one as the only actor. Every good gift and every perfect gift is from above, and it does not change with shadows. Therefore, when the appearance shines, we do not clutch. When the appearance darkens, we do not despair. We behold the same God there. How does this operate in a day? A report card arrives with highest marks. Formerly, your heart would swell with private pride and a subtle fear would creep in. What if they slip? Now something new occurs. Gratitude, yes, but clean, unpossessive, without a hook in it. Father, thou art the wisdom here. God appearing as this one's intelligence. Wisdom is, if the next term the marks dip, the gratitude does not evacuate. The same God is there, unaltered by the ink. You stand in is, and you are led to the next right encouragement or the quiet to leave it alone. The fruitage, stability. No hysterias on the mount, no collapses in the valley. Or consider the bank account. 1 month abundance appears as figures with many zeros. Formerly, you would exhale with relief and call it a demonstration of your faith. Another month, the digits thin. Formerly, you would compose affirmations with a clenched jaw. Now what? You practice unseeing both the pleasant and the unpleasant picture. You neither boast in the first nor tremble in the second. You look back of the eye, Father, thou art my substance. God appearing as individual being is never in a number. Supply is, love is, law is. Then you take very ordinary steps as led. Write the check, call the vendor, decline the unnecessary, accept an unexpected task without theater. And the atmosphere of your affairs reflects the evenness of your seeing. This unseeing is not indifference. It is the only way to love accurately. If you idolize human good, you will cling to persons and projects long past their grace time for fear of losing the glow. If you resist human evil as a self-existing power, you will fight shadows and exhaust yourself. In both cases, the belief in two powers is steering, unseeing, returns the gaze to the one. You refuse to take the bait of comparison, less looking left and right, less envy when another is praised, less pride when you are. You discover more quiet gratitude, more evenness, more willingness to bless without announcing your part. The Lord looketh on the heart, and you begin to look there too. Set yourself a simple daily test. Watch for the inner weather when praise comes and when criticism comes. Do you inflate and then deflate? Or do you remain steady, grateful, teachable? When a friend prospers, does your heart cramp and your mind count? Or do you bless without a second narrative? When a mistake is pointed out, do you build a defense, or do you listen and let love correct a small thing without condemning a self that does not exist? As the practice of as and is deepens, comparison loses its glue. Pride and envy cannot find a handhold. The outer swings continue, the markets move, bodies change, headlines rise and fall, but the axis inside stays true. I have watched this sign appearing in a woman whose career brought her on stages and then off, them applause here, silence there. In the old rhythm, her soul rode the clapping like a tide, and when it ebbed, she felt forsaken. She learned, slowly, to say within, when the lights were bright, none is good but one, thank you, and to say the same when the room was small and no one noticed. The odd thing happened. Her work grew cleaner, her presence steadier, opportunities truer, and the off days ceased to accuse. The sea still had waves. The government had shifted by your life experience, by the fruitage. This is the sign. You see past the pleasant and the unpleasant into the one. You unsee human good and human evil, not to become gray, but to behold God's color that does not fade. The proof is not a vow you make, but the evenness you live. Less comparison, less envy, less pride, more quiet gratitude, more stability, more willingness to act without clinging. Harmony is whether the picture smiles or frowns, and because you know that, you are free to love the picture when it serves and to let it go when it changes without losing your God. Do you see? Here is the sixth sign, and it will be felt before it is announced. The world feels less hostile because the belief in two powers is losing believability. Fear diminishes. Not because the headlines have agreed to behave, not because every driver is courteous or every cell in the body has written you a thank you note, but because you are ceasing to grant a second cause the dignity of reality. Do you see? When the mind stops entertaining two, the heart stops bracing. You do not feel hunted by circumstances. You find yourself walking through the same streets, reading the same reports, handling the same account. Yet the air against your skin is different. If God be for us, who can be against us? Is no longer a rallying cry, it is a report from the field. Let me picture it for you in the way our fathers taught with a rope and a night path. A man, seeing a coil in dim light, leaps back from the snake. His eyes swear is there. His body is not lying. He trembles. He sweats. Then a match is struck. Rope. He does not wrestle the snake. There was none. He does not plead for it to become a rope. It is a rope. The fear evaporates in proportion to seeing what is, not in proportion to fighting what is not. That is the nature of this sign. The correction is recognition. The thing never had power. Hypnotism, mesmerism, the arm of flesh, call it what Scripture calls it. It offers a picture and asks for your consent. As you live in as and is, you decline the offer, and the picture cannot frighten you with the same authority as before. There is fruitage to measure. The first marker is fewer reactive decisions. You discover a new habit forming. You do not answer that email in the heat of it. You do not make the extra call to make sure they know you are right. You do not change your plan 3 times before noon. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. You write the reply after a pause, and it is cleaner. You postpone the purchase without the familiar itch. You say, let me sleep on it. And in the morning you know that either the matter has dissolved or the next step has been given simple, next, not grand. The second marker is less compulsive planning. Formerly, you outmaneuvered phantoms. Now, you plan what love requires and stop. The mind does not pace in circles. The third marker is a decline in regretful swings. You do not look back at the week and wince at a trail of overreactions. You find quietly that your steps have been fewer, steadier, and more accurate. A man told me that the morning news had been his daily alarm bell. He would read, tense, and begin to secure himself against possibilities that never arrive. When he learned to pause and acknowledge God appearing as individual being as the only life here, truth is something shifted. He still read. He still acted where conscience led. A check written, a call to a neighbor, a vote cast, a child comforted, but the feeling of being pursued receded. He said, it is the same city, but it is not chasing me. Do you follow that? The city had not reformed. The belief in two powers had lost ground in him. Or take a small shopkeeper. Supply chains had made him a prophet of dread. He would pencil 10 contingencies for every item and burn out his staff with plans he did not believe in himself. We spoke. My conversation was limited to, I will help you. Give not a thought to the person or the condition. In the quiet, we recognized God appearing as this business's integrity, intelligence, and flow. We rested in is, order is, provision is, law is. He cut 3 unnecessary meetings. He placed 2 clear orders. He told his people the truth without dramatics. The month closed in the black. Not by wizardry, by the absence of panic, by your life experience, by the fruitage. Scripture has been honest with us all along. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Shadow appearance, not substance. No weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper, not because you have become tougher, but because you have ceased to furnish a second power with your belief. Greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. He that is in you is the one that is in the world, are the pictures on the screen. When you stop bowing to pictures, the theater loses its threat. Do not misunderstand. You will still meet noise. You will still be asked for help at inconvenient hours. You will still balance books and hold the hand of one in fear. But the inner atmosphere changes. You are less quick to defend, less quick to assume an enemy, less quick to take sides with a power against a power, fewer clenched jaws, more even breathing. You act with calm intelligence and a freedom from show. You trade less. You apologize sooner. You let some matters pass because they were never matters. Resist not evil, do you see? Not passivity, recognition. The snake was a rope. Set your test and be honest. Count the week's impulses you did not obey. Notice the plans you did not make and did not need. Observe the evenings when the body was not vibrating from a day of inner combat. Hear from others that your presence calms a meeting before you speak. Then you will know the world has not become kind, your vision has become true. As the belief in 2 powers fades, fear and hostility fade with it. That is the sign. That is the fruitage. And it will continue as you continue, as is. Do you see? Here is the 7th sign. And it does not arrive with a banner. It arrives on the faces around you. Your life becomes a quiet benediction. Others are helped along the way. Do you see? Fruitage is never a private miracle locked in your own chest. When God is realized as your being as and you rest in what already is as, the circumference of your life warms. Relationships that had a rough grain begin to smooth. Old quarrels discover a door they did not know they had. Opportunities open that you did not engineer. And, more to the point, the people who pass through your day go away steadier than they came, and you have not explained a thing to them. Ye are the light of the world. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father. They do not glorify you. They do not quote you. They breathe easier and get on with their day. Let me tell it as it lives. A neighbor and his dog had been your sermon text for months. Formerly you rehearsed your speech each night and tightened each morning. Now as and is have been rooted, God appearing as individual, being here as you, yes, and just there as that neighbor. Peace is, courtesy is, order is. You meet him in the driveway, no lecture, no edge. You say good morning and mean it. Something delicate happens. He apologizes before you ask. He has already adjusted the routine. You mention a fence repair as a shared project instead of a threat. By evening, half of it is done, and the dog has a new path. Tell me what you did. You did not arm yourself with rightness. Presence did the work, not by might nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. Or in the office. 2 partners have been winter to one another. Formerly you would have picked a side and sharpened your truths. Now you keep silence inwardly, Father. Thou art here. One asks for your opinion, you answer simply and refuse the undertow of blame. The meeting that should have shattered finds a different current. A sentence that would have wounded does not occur to you to speak. A sentence that heals occurs to them to say, no drama, no fanfare. Afterwards, someone says, I don't know why, but this felt easier. You know why. The fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, temperance. Those fruits are edible. People partake without your label on the basket. Let us be precise about what this is not. This is not a promotion to announce yourself a teacher. This is not a new hobby of advising the world. Words are only auxiliaries. Words sometimes are an interference. My conversation is usually limited to, I will help you. The help is not in phrases, it is in presence realized. You will find yourself doing small things you never had time for before because fear is no longer spending your time. You lend a tool. You send a note. You return the call you avoided. You refuse to repeat a rumor. You make the apology you owe and do not include an explanation dressed as a pardon. The room brightens. Silver and gold have I none, but such as I have give I thee. What have you? A transparency to the one. The test is simple, and it is searching. Are there fewer people wounded by your rightness and more people strengthened by your presence? Do your children, your colleagues, your clients, your cashier feel less hurried when you are near? Do they find themselves telling you the truth without fear because your eyes are not measuring them against a second power? When a mistake is made, does your correction land without bruise? When you succeed, does no one need to duck? Do you leave a place more orderly than you found it? Even if you only touched it for 5 minutes, measure that by your life experience, by the fruitage. I think of a woman who rides the bus before dawn. She prays no audible prayers there. She sits in quiet, and her inward stance is firm and gentle, God appearing as each one, and truth is, over months, the driver who cursed at delays now jokes kindly with latecomers. The man who blared music lowers the volume when a child boards. No tract was handed out, no one was corrected. A climate changed. Do you follow that? Your realized identity does not inform the atmosphere. It reforms the atmosphere by removing the belief in two powers from the place where you stand. Scripture names it without embroidery. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. Peacemakers do not talk peace only. They make it by being transparency to the one. You cannot fake this. You cannot schedule it, and you do not get credit for it. But it is verifiable. Weeks accumulate, and you notice the conflicts resolve with less scar tissue. Invitations come that fit your feet. People you never planned to help discover that they have been helped, and you have said little more than, I will help you. This is the sure sign. Harmony spills over, others are helped without fanfare. Keep to as and is, and let the fruitage speak. Do you see? Method, not mood, carries this forward. Do you see? Fruitage does not grow out of impulse. It grows where devotion keeps returning consciousness to the real. I have 3 pauses for you and 1 refusal. They are small and they are everything. They are not magic. Words are only auxiliaries. Words sometimes are an interference. These are not incantations. They are doors. Open them and be still long enough for the presence to announce itself. Recognition, refusal, and receptivity. This is the daily trellis on which the vine bears. First pause on waking. Before the foot finds the floor, before the mind climbs into yesterday's ladder, turn inward and recognize what is. Harmony is. Life is. Love is. Abundance is. Omnipresence is. I am, not to make it so, but to agree with what is so. God appearing as individual being AS is the I that wakes. This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Hear it, then be still. Be still, and know that I am God. 10 seconds will do, 30 if given. No planning, no bargaining, no trying to feel something. Listen, let a word be imparted or let silence be the word. Often it is a small assurance, yes, or nothing, only peace. Rise from that, and you will find that the first hour loses its rush and its harshness. Do you follow that? Second pause. At meals, the table is a sacrament of is. Not a plea for tomorrow, but give us this day our daily bread, understood as presence feeding itself. Pause before the first bite. Recognition, substance is, life is, gratitude is. The one is the food and the eater. Unsee the menu as cause. Here, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word of God. Then the listening ear. A short, quiet, no performance prayer, no lecture to the children, no speech to your nerves, just receptivity. You will discover the body takes only what it needs. Conversation kindles. The meal ceases to be an anesthesia or an argument. It becomes a climate. This is not willpower. It is order recognized and allowed. Third pause. At money or work decisions, before the click, the signature, the hire, the dismissal, the purchase, the schedule, stop. Recognition. Law is. Order is. Intelligence is. Supply is. Integrity is. I am. God appearing as individual being is the life and government of this transaction. Then listen. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. Do not manufacture guidance. Receive it. If nothing is given, take the next simplest honest step and leave the rest. The fruitage here is not in a glow. It is in fewer corrections later, fewer apologies, fewer late-night redoing of the day. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added. Seek does not mean strain. It means turn toward what is and let it lead. Now the refusal, and this is the keystone, refuse personalization. The instant a claim presents, drop it. Do not rehearse. Do not explain. Do not mentally indict the person, the body, the system. Give not a thought to the person or the condition. See it for what it is. Hypnotism, the arm of flesh, a picture asking for your belief. Say within, quickly, this is only appearance. God alone is. Then return to A as God appearing as this scene, unfragmented, and rest in I as. Peace is here. After that refusal, listen. If a phone call is to be made, it will be given. If an apology is yours, it will rise cleanly and without self-accusation. If you are to be silent, you will not itch to speak. My sheep hear my voice. You are not managing outcomes. You are refusing a second power, its courtroom in you. This is the discipline. 3 pauses and 1 refusal, seasoned with listening. Morning, table, transaction, and any hour refuse. Personalization on contact. Keep it brief, keep it faithful. You will find the day lived more by impartation than by invention. You will speak fewer words and see more results. Problems will shorten their visit. Drama will thin. Decisions will arrive on time. By your life experience, by the fruitage, try it for 10 days, honest and unadvertised. Watch the atmosphere around you, report back, and when you forget, return. Ayaz, Ayaz, Son, thou art ever with me, and all that I have is thine. Do you see? Now let us gather it into a single seeing. Inspiration may visit, realization abides. Inspiration can move the surface of the waters. Realization calms the depths and keeps the boat from capsizing when the breeze changes. By your life experience, By the fruitage, the measure is steady, stability in your affairs, a shortening of discord, fewer words and more effect, compassion without pity, a world that feels less like a duel and more like a temple, and at last, a life that helps others along the way without announcements. By their fruits ye shall know them. Do you see? We have not asked you to become eloquent. We have asked you to become transparent. AS and ES are the framework, and they are not fragile. God appearing as individual being. AS is your identity. You are not separated from the source you seek. IS is the present fact. Harmony is, life is, love is, law is. You do not construct these. You consent to them. Then error reveals itself as what it ever was, the arm of flesh, hypnotism, the picture without substance. The practice has been exact, 3 pauses and 1 refusal. Recognition, refusal, receptivity. This is not a lazy man's work, but it is gentle work. My yoke is easy, and my burden is light. If, as you listen, you discover that some of the signs have not yet appeared, let there be no sting in that discovery. There is therefore now no condemnation to them which are in Christ Jesus. Condemnation is another form of 2 powers. Drop it. Pretending will not ripen fruit. Progress is not show. It is quiet consent returned to hour by hour. If the problem still lingers, if words still multiply, if the world still feels hostile, do not build an argument against yourself. Simply return A as, I as. Refuse to personalize the claim. Spend your strength on recognition and listening. Be ye doers of the word and not hearers only, and the doing here is consenting again and again to what is. Examine yourselves whether ye be in the faith. That is not a grim audit. It is a kindly inventory. Which sign has begun to show itself in you? Is discord shorter lived? Are you talking less and seeing more done? Has compassion shed its pity? Have you unfastened a little from the praise and blame swing? Has the world's snarl softened in your ear? Has your life become a small benediction in the places you stand? Name it within. Then name just as honestly which sign you are practicing now. Do you follow that? In the naming there is power, because you turn from mood to measure, from pretense to practice. Let your yea be yea. Let your no be no. If a sign is present, bless it and continue. If it is absent, do not counterfeit it. Return to the simple trellis. Morning recognition, table recognition, transaction recognition, and the swift refusal to personalize a claim. Listen, perfect love casteth out fear. That love is not a surge. It is presence recognized as your very life and as the life of those before you. Keep to that, and you will find fear's theater closing for lack of your ticket. I will help you, not with speeches, not with formulas. Words are only auxiliaries and sometimes an interference, but by standing with you in the realization of AS and IS until the fruitage reports. This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Hear it for yourself. Hear it for the brother at your side. Then let the days speak. No pretending is required, only willingness to return to as is and the fruitage test. Thank you. Do you see?